When the New York Knicks acquired Karl-Anthony Towns, the expectation was that his offensive firepower would more than make up for the departure of defensive anchor Isaiah Hartenstein, who had joined the Oklahoma City Thunder. The vision was clear. Supercharge the offense with a big man who could stretch the floor and dominate in the post, while filling a critical gap left by Hartenstein's exit. What the Knicks didn't fully anticipate, however, was the growing defensive liability Towns would become as the season wore on, culminating in a disastrous postseason performance that exposed cracks in the team's structure. From the very beginning, the Knicks' defensive struggles with Towns were evident. While Towns' offensive impact was undeniable, his defense, or lack thereof, quickly became a point of contention. The Knicks' defense took a noticeable dip when Towns was on the floor, particularly in high-pressure moments such as the playoffs. As the season wore on, it became clear that Towns was not the defensive upgrade they were hoping for. The cracks in New York's defense were particularly visible when he shared the floor with Jalen Brunson. While Brunson's size already made him a target on defense, Towns' defensive lapses only exacerbated the problem, leaving the Knicks unable to stop opponents when it mattered most. By the time the playoffs rolled around, the Knicks were faced with the harsh reality of their defensive shortcomings. In their second-round series against the Indiana Pacers, the lack of defensive cohesion between Towns and Brunson was painfully evident. Despite the Knicks' offensive firepower, their inability to get stops on the defensive end spelled their eventual downfall. The Pacers ruthlessly exposed Towns' weaknesses, punishing him both in drop coverage and when he switched onto shooters. His inability to protect the rim or stay in front of his man left the Knicks scrambling to pick up the pieces. In a post-mortem analysis of New York's season, The Athletic's Fred Katz and James Edwards reported that the Knicks grew increasingly frustrated with Towns' defensive habits as the season went on. This frustration came to a head as the Knicks were eliminated by the Pacers on Saturday. The team's defensive issues were compounded by a lack of communication on the court, a hallmark of successful NBA defense. As longtime defensive specialist P.J. Tucker, who was brought in late in the season to help stabilize the locker room, put it succinctly after Game 1 of New York's series against Boston, they all talked to me. But they didn't talk to each other in real time in those situations. Tucker's words underscored a critical flaw in the Knicks' defensive approach, a breakdown in communication. In today's NBA, where offenses thrive on spacing and high-level creativity, the importance of defensive cohesion has never been greater. One wrong step, one lapse in focus, and an entire defensive scheme can crumble. If teammates can't trust each other to be in the right place or execute the right coverage, the entire defense suffers. And that's exactly what the Knicks were dealing with when Towns was on the floor. The numbers also tell a damning story. During the regular season, New York's defense was 2.8 points per 100 possessions better when Towns was on the bench. The discrepancy was even more stark in the postseason. While the team's defense as a whole remained largely inconsistent, the Towns-Brunson units were especially vulnerable. Towns' struggles in drop coverage, where he allowed shooters too much room, were exploited by opponents, particularly the Pacers, who made him pay with precision jump shooting. When Towns was forced to switch, it was often a mismatch that ended in a drive to the basket or an easy finish at the rim. It's clear that the Knicks' defensive woes were directly tied to Towns' performance. For all his offensive talent, he simply wasn't able to make the necessary impact on the defensive end. It begs the question, can this partnership work moving forward? Realistically, the Knicks are not going to move on from Jalen Brunson. The 2024 All-Star is the undisputed face of the franchise, and his ability to lead on both ends of the floor remains the foundation of New York's future. This means that the onus will fall squarely on Towns to find a way to make this partnership work defensively, and therein lies the challenge. Towns has never been a premier defender. While he possesses the size, athleticism, and tools to be a solid defender, he has rarely shown the consistency needed to be a game changer on that side of the floor. That being said, there's still hope. Towns has functioned within successful defensive systems in the past. In Minnesota, for example, the Timberwolves boasted the league's top-ranked defense in 2023, when Towns played primarily as a power forward alongside a dominant rim protector in Rudy Gobert. The question now is whether the Knicks can replicate this success, especially with